Your first week of school is probably the most important week of the entire year.
First day of school!
That's when students are most on their best behavior. That's when they're most receptive to anything. And if you can start off your year right, man, it goes a long, long way. So here's what I do for my first week of school. Day one, when students walk into my classroom, I already have a seating chart in place. I know exactly where each student's going to be. So when they walk into my class, I'll tell them, go ahead and have a seat anywhere, and they'll sit somewhere. And then, as soon as everybody's in and that bell rings, then I say, all right, welcome everybody. The first thing we need to do is get you in the right spot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna point to a desk. When I point to a desk, I'm gonna say a name. If you hear a name, get up and move to the desk. If you're in that desk, get up and kind of move to the back. Now, if for some reason you don't hear your name, just go ahead and go to the back and we'll find you your spot. And then I just go through the room and I point to a desk and I'll say the name Jose Diaz, and I'll say John White, and then I'll say Susie, whatever. And I'll point to a desk and students will get to the right seat. And then once they move to that seat, that is when I take my attendance. So from the beginning, this is like the first 5 minutes, I don't go into a, hey everybody, my name is Mr. Villano. I don't do any of that. My first thing is make sure everybody's in their spot, make sure they're sitting down, and make sure I do my attendance. And then that is the first 5 minutes. Then I go into my introduction about myself. I'll tell them, information about me. I kind of use that period to share me, so they know what they can expect from me. And I tell them all sorts of how long I've been teaching, what I do at the district, family, kids, dogs, you name it. And I actually have a little presentation I put together over the years, my hobbies, interests, and all of those things. And so the most of the period is taken up by me kind of going over that information. And the key is this, I'm not just trying to give them facts, I'm trying to make it a story. As I'm sharing information, I'm sharing stories as I go along to try to keep their attention as best as possible. But then, here's the thing, when that is done, I make my announcement to my students. And I tell them the story about how when I was a kid in class, how it was my pet peeve that I would do work and it would not be graded. And so I let students know that everything they do in this class is going to be graded. If they raise their hand to participate, they get extra credit points for that. And so I really set that stage. And then I finish the class by saying, all right guys, pop quiz, raise your hand if you know the answer. And then I start giving them questions about me, what just happened, the stories I just told about my family and everything else, and they raise their hands and I give extra credit points. And then that wraps up the first day. So the key is this, the first day, I'm setting the tone for the class. My goal is not for them to necessarily understand everything about the class. I'm just trying to create that tone. So I do that by the seating chart, talking about me, and then I give extra credit points at the end to get a little bit of participation. So that creates the overall feeling for the very first day. Day two. Now students already have their seats. They know where they're at. And so they sit in their seat. Now they don't remember, I'm right there at the very front saying, okay, go ahead, sit here, sit here, sit here. And so everybody has a seat when they first come in. But the other key is this. I already have an assignment for them to work on. And I'll have it on my screen, on my overhead projector or my board, you call it, smart board, what to do. And there's an assignment I give them, it's called the Nakarima. And so I tell the students as they come in, go ahead, read this article and write down 5 words describing Nakarima. Don't worry about the assignment, but that's what I start the class with. So they first come in, once again, creating that tone, the expectations. It's not a free all class where they come in and start going crazy. And no, there's structure to the class, and I get it from the very beginning. So they come in, they get to their assigned seats, and they work on the assignment, the Nakarima, which probably takes about 5 minutes the most. While they're doing that, I am monitoring the class, make sure everybody's on task, and then I'm also taking my attendance. And then when that 5 minutes is up, boom, I move on to the next thing. Then I tell them, go ahead and just put the paper to the side, and I share with them my philosophy of the class, what I want them to get out of the class. And I have a big spiel. Once again, I've been doing this for a while, so I kind of have it down now. And overall thing, the main thing I want students to do is to really think about what they believe. Do they really believe what they say they believe? And once again, I put that into a story form to communicate that to them. And then I tell some other stories that goes along with that premise. But I share with them what I really want them to get out of the class. And then how I finish up the class is that we go back to the assignment they first worked on when they came in the Nakarima. And what that is, it's a story. The way it's written, it makes these people sound really weird, but in reality, it's Americans. And so through the part of things, when I tell my philosophy in the classes, I want them to think about things differently. And then now, when we revisit that assignment, it gets them thinking differently from the very beginning. So for day 2, at the end of day 2, I've already created the tone for the class, I already created some structure, I already created some routines, and I'm already getting the kids to think a little differently. And then that's how I finished day 2. They would turn their paper in, have a procedure for that. This will go on more as we go along, but the procedure for that is they put that in a bin as they're leaving, and boom, there we go. Day 2 down. Now day 3 starts getting a little boring, because I'm going over the syllabus. Now, once again, I communicate to them everything counts as points. And so if they raise their hand and participate, they get extra credit points. So by doing that, I get a little more engagement. And then my syllabus, though, actually what it does is the syllabus, but I took out some words and left a blank space. So I count as an assignment. So in order for students to get credit for it, they have to fill in the blanks as we're going through that. So as we're going through the syllabus, I'm talking about my expectations. I'm talking about the book. I'm talking about different routines, and I'm talking about hall pass. All those things that you might find a syllabus or grading, I have it all in there, but it's blank. So students have to raise their hand, take a guess what it is, and participate. But by the time we're all done, we got probably the first page of the syllabus done. The front side of the syllabus done. It's 2 sides, front and back. And so the first side is done on the syllabus. So by the end of that day, once we got our routines down, the kids are coming in, they're sitting down, everything else. We got that. We got the tone of the class, and we started going over the syllabus, which the most important part of the syllabus is not necessarily just to give them the information, but it's to start going over those routines and the procedures. And we practice some of that as well as we're going through the syllabus. Day 4 is we're finishing up the syllabus. So we finish up the syllabus, which maybe takes half the period possibly for day 4, but we finish that up. And then I tell them, okay, go ahead and take it home. This is your this is your second assignment. The first one not going to be. This is your second assignment. Make sure you take it home, get it signed, and brought back to me. All right. So we finish up the syllabus, go over the rules, procedures, and everything is that. Then I go over some other things I do in my class. Once again, the first week is all about routines, procedures, and expectations. We haven't really dived into any material yet about anything. And so I go over my routines about how students can earn class points and how they'll go towards no homework, and we'll talk about that. And once again, I revisit the idea that everything they do counts as points. And so every day they don't do something, it's going to affect their grade. And so I go over that again. And then usually we have a few minutes left, and I say, you know what? Here we go. Let's get a head start on it. And I pass out their homework to them. Now, the homework, honestly, in my classes is very simple. They could probably finish it in class, but if not, then I always tell them, you don't finish class, you got to finish at home. But once again, what I'm doing is by passing the homework, I'm showing them what the homework is going to be, what they have to do. And that way, in the future, when they have homework, I won't have to revisit that because we already kind of did it a little bit in class, so they know exactly what the expectations are of that. And then that wraps up that day. And then day 5, 6, and 7 are almost identical. 5, 6, and 7. What I have in mind, I believe that the most important time in your class period is the beginning. Just like the beginning of the year sets the tone for the entire year, the beginning of your class sets the tone for the entire class period. And so I want to make sure I start every class out on the high note, on the right way. And so to do that, I have something called warm-up procedures. So when students come into my class, I tell them, and there will always be something on the board for them to work on. They will never come into class and just sit there with no idea what to do. It's always going to be on the board. And by us spending, here we go, 3 days on these things, it'll be second nature to them. So they'll know exactly what to expect. And so for 3 days, I go over the warm-up procedures. Now, part of that is what to expect when they first come to class, how it's formatted. And then the other part is how to actually do the work. I do Cornell notes, so we go over Cornell notes. And then on the 3rd day, I show them how to count the points, and I show them what grade they earn. So we did all that. Warm procedures are other things that are going to be happening all year long. But the key is this. By the end of that day, by the end of the 7th day, man, we set the tone off right. By the end of the 7th day, they know exactly what to expect in the class. They know stuff about me. They know the rules and procedures. They know the tone is structured. They come in, and then for the rest of the year, we just build on that foundation.